What's up, guys? Here for the week 7 review. To start, we'll cover the couple trades that took place today. Those are the only trades since last video. Brian traded Traquan Smith to Dalton for Aaron Jones. Pretty even trade. Probably at this point, Traquan has a little bit more upside in my opinion. He did have a tough matchup this past week. But also the Packers may have, in their bye week, may have made some changes, and maybe they'll decide to give Aaron Jones the ball quite a bit. I know Brian is in desperate need of running back help, so maybe it can benefit both teams there. And then the other trade, which I didn't even get notified about, which is weird, until I was just looking at the league page. Dalton sent Drew Brees to Josh for Sammy Watkins. Don't really like the trade necessarily, but obviously Josh needs a quarterback for this week, and I guess Dalton is looking to add some receiver depth. That leaves Dalton with just Jameis Winston as his quarterback. It does take some receiver depth away from Josh. I don't decide how people manage their teams, so to each his own. So obviously that's what both those guys wanted, so we'll put that through. Before I get started on the matchups here, one thing I want to kind of harp on is I've noticed that 3 teams this week played players that were inactive for their games. That would be Joseph had Chris Thompson in his lineup. He was ruled inactive a little bit before an hour before the game. It doesn't look like. I looked at most of these teams, didn't look like they had much to pivot to outside of Orlando because of when the teams played. But you have to know if your guys are injured, if there's a likelihood they might play, if they may not play. If you don't know, you need to have a backup plan in place to get somebody in case they don't play. In my case, I didn't know if Allen Robinson was going to play this week, so I went out and picked up Cameron Meredith. Obviously, Robinson played, or he was active. They didn't use him a ton, and he only got me 0.9. But, I had a plan in place in case I was notified he wasn't going to be playing. It wouldn't have made no damn difference because I would have played Cam Meredith, and I would have got 0 because he played and didn't make any catches. But you have to have a backup, so you don't get stuck in that situation. The reason I harp on it is, if you're playing guys who aren't active, the chances of you winning go down. That means you're making it easier for the other guy to win. Other people in the league may be counting on that person to win or lose. That may help them in the standings. And, the last few playoff seeds are probably going to only come down to a game or two. And, everything matters. So I just need everybody to make sure they're playing the best lineup they can. Make sure you're getting your lineup set. Obviously, Orlando could have avoided Melvin Gordon sitting out if he would have woke up Sunday morning. I don't really know what his status was, but you got to set an alarm and just roll over, just check real quick, 15 minutes before the game and, make any adjustments if you need to and just go right back to sleep. Anybody will tell you that has been in this league for a while, when we did waivers differently and waivers ran at 4:30 in the morning, I would wake up at 4:30 in the morning, so whoever did not get claimed on waivers, I could pick them up immediately. And that's how serious I take this, and I would like everybody else to take it somewhat as serious. I'm a little crazy about it. The other person was Derek playing Paul Richardson in his lineup. Basically all 3 of these guys were ruled out of their games, maybe only an hour before the kickoff. So, it's not a ton of time, but you have to know, hey, I got a guy that's questionable. I need to make sure, I have another player I can pivot to if he's not going to be active. So let's just please keep on that. That's a big thing for me, and I'm sure everybody else would greatly appreciate it if you guys set a valid lineup. We'll move on to the matchups. First one we have here is my matchup versus Dalton here. I won this one 133 to 111. I know there was some chatter in the group about, I was going to take my first loss being down 17 going into Monday night. And yeah, it wasn't close. Obviously, me and some of you guys may have seen me and Josh placed a wager on it. I don't know why he was betting on somebody else's team to beat mine. Clearly his team couldn't do it when we played. But we bet $50. We'll see if he pays up by the end of the week. Based on our terms, we'll go from there. Um, my team played pretty well for the most part. Matt Ryan got me 19, Gurley with 20, 29, Barkley with 22, Thielen had 22. Adam Thielen's had 100 yards receiving every game this year. I know it's hard to see him as the best receiver for fantasy purposes, but he has just killed it. It's insane how good he's playing, and the chemistry that he has with Kirk Cousins there. Mike Williams had 12 points. I believe that was on one catch, so he had a huge catch for a touchdown. Like I said, Allen Robinson sucked for me this week. Nick Chubb got 14 in his first start. I see some people shitting on him on social media. He had 80 yards and a touchdown. Like, I'll take that any fucking day. 14 points out of, my RB3, or, a lot of people probably use him as RB2. 14 points is nothing to shit at. I'm pretty happy with that if he can average that every fucking week. Not much else going on with my team. A lot of guys on bye week on my bench. I'm looking at Dalton's team. Winston with 20. Kamara had 15. Jeffrey had 18. Keenan Allen with 10. Njoku had 13. Cole's defense really helped him keep the shit close on Sunday with 16 points there. Definitely outplayed my defense. Had Drew Brees on the bench with 17, so he played the better quarterback there. No lineup decisions he, failed to make or anything like that. Just a little tough when you got to play Chester Rogers and Ito Smith to round out your lineup. Obviously, he had a couple guys, on bye week too that are guys he might normally play. The next matchup we have here, we have Phillip versus Dakota. This was the closest matchup of the week. Dakota pulled this out by 0.2. Now, give me 1 second here. I don't know if stat corrections have been made for this week yet. I saw somebody bitching on social media about it, but I didn't see any stat corrections, and I still don't see any stat corrections on the ESPN site for this week. So there is a slight chance that when stat corrections are made that their score could change. 0.2 is not a lot, so I'll be interested to see when the stat corrections come out if there is any changes. It could go one way or the other for these guys. But for now, Dakota won this one by 0.2. We'll look at Phillips' team here first. He has Deshaun Watson with 11. Kenyon Drake had 17. Latavius Murray had 21. Odell Beckham finally had a decent game with 24. John Brown with 23. Robert Woods, 11. Just not a lot of passing from the Rams in that game. Didn't need to. I thought he was going to have a better day. Not much else going on. Matt Breida got hurt early in that game. That really hurt him there. His bench, a lot of guys on bye. If you played Derrick Henry over Matt Breida, he would have won. Derrick Henry had 13.5. Obviously hindsight's 2020. Probably would have went with Breida myself. But you never know. Obviously, because Derrick Henry sucked all year. I'm looking at Dakota's team. Wentz with 19. McCaffrey had 11. Jordan Howard had 11. Hopkins with 13. Tyreek Hill had 17. Julio had 13. This guy cannot find the end zone for the life of me. I don't own him in any leagues, but it's just insane how good this player is and just cannot score a touchdown. Ben Watson had a nice day for him with 13. Vikings defense with 14. Kirk Cousins on the bench with 17.5. So he played the right quarterback there because if he makes that change, he loses the matchup. Not much else going on his bench. Next up, we have Joseph versus Orlando. It's a battle of two guys that decided to play guys who weren't going to be active for the game. We'll look at Joseph's team. Pat Mahomes had 33, so big day out of him. Phillip Lindsay had 16. Mike Evans with 14. Emmanuel Sanders had 24. He also got a 0 out of Hayden Hurst, who did play, but I'm not sure if he got targeted or anything. I didn't look into that at all. And then he had nothing going on his bench. He also lost this one barely. So if he plays Wendell Smallwood instead of Chris Thompson, he gets 4.7 points. and he would have won. So, that's why it's so crucial. If he would have played Alfred Blue instead of Thompson, he still would have lost barely. Because he lost, it was 109.2 to 105.7, so just shy of 4 points. Looking here at the Orlando's team, not only did he get a 0 for Melvin Gordon, he got 0.1 for LaShawn McCoy, who got hurt early in that game. He did have 12 from Edelman. He had a huge day out of the defense and Marlon Mack. If it wasn't for those two, this dude would have had probably one of the worst scores of the season. But he got 31 out of Marlon Mack and 33 out of the Broncos defense. Also got 13 out of his kicker. Had Fitzgerald on the bench, who had 12. Austin Eckler, who obviously he would have pivoted to had he subbed out Melvin Gordon, had 9. Deion Lewis on the bench as well, had 18.5. Next up, we got Derek and Chad. Another close matchup. Chad won this one barely. It was 101 to 98.4. Looking at Derek's team, Jared Goff with 16.5. Tariq Cohen with 18. Lamar Miller with 16. Rams defense with 24. So I've already discussed, how he played Paul Richardson, who was inactive. He would have taken him out of the lineup and put Will Fuller in, obviously prior to the 1 o'clock games. He would have got the 9.8 points and would have won this matchup. Or he could have put Kelvin Benjamin in there, who got 9.1 and could have won the matchup. So, this is why it's so crucial. Like, this is costing teams wins and giving other teams victories when they actually shouldn't have had them. Obviously he has an injury with Sony Michel, who's going to be out probably, my guess is at least a week or two with his knee injury. He only had 2 points in that game, but if he plays one of those other receivers, he gets the win. Instead of him being 2-5, he's 3-4. And then same with Chad, he's 3-4, so then they're even. Now he's 2 games back at Chad, and now his chances of making the playoffs are highly unlikely at 2-5 at this point in a 4-game losing streak. It's just those little things that can make a difference. We look at Chad's team: Luck with 23, Coleman with 15, Michael Thomas with 16, George Kittle had 18. Had Stafford on the bench with 18 points, so played the right quarterback. Funchess on the bench had 15, so he could have got a few more points there, throwing him into the lineup. Next up, we have Garrett versus this other guy who I don't know what he did, but he only had 71 points. So it was a 100-point victory for Garrett. This other guy had Tom Brady with 22. T.Y. Hilton got 17, finally decided to play this week. Played the Bills defense, who got -2. Had Eli on the bench, so he played the right quarterback. Sterling Shepard on the bench with 19.2. Don't really know why he didn't play Sterling Shepard. I would have definitely played him over at least Traquan Smith. I personally would have played him over Crabtree, but I can see the difference there. But Traquan Smith, a rookie, going up against one of the top defenses in the league, versus Sterling Shepard going up against the shitty Falcons defense. Obviously, you don't really understand his reasoning there. We got Garrett's team here. Just a lot of guys going off. David Johnson only had 8. Golden Tate only had 8. Kicker had 8. Everybody else had double digits. A huge day out of Trubisky with 31. Huge day out of Kareem Hunt with 35. Landry finally had a nice day with 21 there. His whole team just killed it. Highest score of the week, this week. This would have been the one week if I would have played him, I would have lost. So, because I finished second in scoring. But still lead the league in scoring by probably about 100 points at this point. Josh and Steven here. I believe both these teams had the same record going into the matchup. I may be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But Josh won this one. It was 133 to 100. Looking at Steven's team: Cam Newton with 26, T.J. Yeldon with 15, Josh Gordon with 12, Ertz with 18. Not much else going on there. Goodwin struggled in his matchup. I don't know why Tyler Boyd struggled. It sucks when you got to play 2 Ravens running backs because of all the freaking injuries he's got. he's got he had to play Collins and Allen, and neither one did much of anything. He's still hoping to get Fournette back. Not much else going on there. I'm looking at Josh's team. Phillip Rivers with 20. James White's been killing it with 26. Cooks had 15. Deshaun Jackson with 10. Trey Burton had a big day with 23. Peterson with 11. He got negative points out of his defense. Got Zerline back who got him 13 there. So that wraps up the matchups for the week. Obviously, we're moving on to week 8 here. Let's see if we got any big matchups this week. I play Phillips, so that's like an automatic win. Joseph and Dakota play 2, 3, and 4 teams. Dalton and Derek, they're 1 game apart. That should be a good game. Orlando versus the team who buried themselves earlier, from what I read. So that's bottom of the barrel. We got Chad and Steven, 4-3 versus 4-3. And then we got the team that is in sole possession of 3rd place going up against Garrett. So that could be a big matchup this week. So we'll see how that plays out. Obviously, waivers will process tomorrow for the first time at noon. Just make sure you guys get your waiver claims in. And let's make sure we set lineups. I hate to harp on this again, but a lot of people seem to be very concerned with other people's teams, trades that they're making, whether it was dumb or not. I mean, you can't talk about anybody else's team if you can't control your own team and set a valid lineup for the week. All right? So, I mean, complaining about other people's teams when you're not even putting forth your best effort to win a game, it just is completely asinine. So please, let's make sure we set our lineups. Make sure everybody's got a valid lineup this week. And, best of luck to everybody. See you next time.